Okay, I guess we got everything set up then. Okay, like I said, we're going to need your name so the person transcribing this can associate the voice and the name. So we'll start from you.
I am Eric.
Roger.
Andy.
And Tim.
とりあえず来日を果たしたわけなんです。
You guys have come here to perform live, and it seems rather, not surprising, but one thing that characterizes your popularity here is a sort of it's taken on kind of maniac proportions. People who follow the band are such faithful followers that I guess they're scooping up unreleased outtakes and stuff like that. What do you think of the sort of success you've had here?
Well, anytime you go somewhere that you haven't been and people are aware of it, as always makes it just twice as exciting. I mean, it's like we're cheating or something. So used to having to go and play and all that kind of stuff.
Turn your key.
Yeah, so it's like we have this giant head start. We've never even set foot in the country, so it's just twice as exciting.
Has this sort of reaction occurred elsewhere, where it's sort of a non-mainstream, sort of a loyal?
I mean, in England, they're really into collecting all the little things that are released. In Sweden, even more so.
Not that way in America at all.
It's just not that kind of a marketplace. I mean, it's just very much album and single driven. I mean, not even single driven. I mean, singles get played on the radio, but people don't. Oh, I got to go out and buy that single. They hear the single, they go out and buy the album. But in England, it's just so single. You get a single, you buy the single, you buy the album, you buy the special artwork in the single, special edition. You buy
picture discs.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. So every format has different songs on it. So you have to get the cassette and the CD and the vinyl because it has different songs. It's just a money machine.
It seems like American collectors go out of their way to procure these sort of European and Japanese rarities, though.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a faction, but it's not the mainstream, not by a long shot.
Not enough to facilitate the release of the type of thing that was just released here.
Yeah.
The outtakes,
No, I mean, there's not the. I don't think for anybody really there would be that kind of a.
でもそういうその節の新聞だったり、それはなかなか
record companies or record shops won't indulge the artist, won't allow you to sort of release the type of stuff that's been coming out, the outtakes collection that came out this month. Why do you think you're being given sort of the extra slack here? I think you guys are the exception to the rule.
Computer malfunction. I don't know. I don't see because we're totally unaware of exactly until we play a show and we can kind of see the reaction. It's doing interviews alone. We can't really get a sense of what's going on. We hear that it's going really well, but until it's right in front of you and you can see what it's all about or talk to the fans, I'm really kind of at a loss. I don't completely understand exactly what it's all about yet. So we're premature.
There may be an element. All the demo tracks that were released are I wasn't involved with making them, so I can say this, and I feel weird, but they're pretty amazing as demos, and I think they kind of stand. It's just kind of interesting to hear them as demos, and then people that have the record and see the differences or the things that are comparable or whatever. So I think there's something. There's not like they're just putting something out for people to buy as opposed to buying the record. I think there's something sort of unique about what we're giving people.
And I think it's nice for us to have people be aware of those things because just to show people that it's not just somehow some producer brought us into a studio and created it, that we have everything to do with the arrangements and have everything to do with that kind of stuff, and it's nice to hear some things in their more raw state. So that's cool.
Wouldn't it be that way with just about any group, though? I mean, don't demos go through like sort of an evolution? The earlier forms are kind of interesting, if nothing more than for the historical value.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the band. I mean, there's some bands that don't do any demos, and there's some bands that call a guitar and vocal a demo. But we really get more elaborate in our stuff in producing our demos because it's just so expensive to experiment in the studio. If you hire a string section and it costs $15,000 to find out that the strings don't work. It's too expensive, so you've got to do your homework, and that's why our demos are so extensive.
By the way, just one disclaimer here. This gets translated later by a different person. We try to do this needless to time. So it's not like he's understanding some of it and maybe not other parts, but if he has any questions, he'll ask you. So don't fear being misunderstood. Do you think you guys personally identify more with the avid collector? Is that one thing that would point you in the direction of wanting to release demo tapes? Are you the types that even go out of your way to find demo tapes of the bands you idolize?
I mean, as a songwriter, I definitely do. I love to hear, the idea before it got to the studio. So I'd like to think there's some fans of ours that are curious that way.
Did you ever have access to that type of thing? Does anything come to mind that you listen to it and thought, my God, this is...
There was XTC demos that were released that were really interesting.
Uh-huh.
But there's also an entire Jewel Shear album that was all demos, and some of those demos had been covered by other artists later on. I know there's a Bangle song and some other things that it was very interesting because it allows you to also appreciate the arrangement that any given band brought to it, in the recording studio. So, if it's just a guy with a guitar, it just lets you totally appreciate all the little parts that were added later on and how they recorded it and everything else.
Wasn't the XTC one a dub album? It wasn't a demo.
They had a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
でもご自分たちでそういう俺はっていっぱい全部この人はこれ全部集めてんだよみたいなそういうのあ
Do
る
you have any artists whose outtakes or demo tracks you made a point of collecting? Like one guy, or one group, or you've got to have everything he's ever done.
Well, the primo example of I wouldn't really call them demos, but all the Smile stuff that the Beach Boys did, Brian Wilson did, which was never released. I guess the new box set has a bit of it, but those unreleased, even before it was released, those were definitely worth seeking out because they're absolutely stunning. I mean, they're amazing. That would be the first one and the foremost to come to mind for me. There was some prefab Sprout stuff that I heard that I really liked.
What kind of stuff?
Well, boy, it was so rough. It was like somebody had it on a tape. I don't even know where he got it. But then very recently, somebody gave me some Sting demos that were before the Police. And some of them were Police songs, but it was like his little jazz group that was playing them. It was very strange to hear. But it's just neat because it's like you're seeing. Those? Jack gave it to me.
Oh wow.
They're just. It's like looking at somebody's baby pictures. It's very telling.
Yeah, we run across all kinds. I mean, I remember working with a guy that had compiled this Jimi Hendrix record reissue thing. He gave me all, and I didn't really know much about Jimi Hendrix at the time, but to hear all these oddball things that were never released that he pulled out of a vault when he was putting together this thing, or you meet studio guys that have bits of Beatles songs that it's some one-off thing that Lennon put down on a tape recorder in his bedroom before he did whatever song or something.
Yeah, that was another good one. As I got when the Beatles did the Let It Be album, there was a version of that album that was produced by Glyn Johns that I have a DAT copy of off the master, which was the Glyn Johns version, and not the what's his face.
Phil Spector.
Phil Spector wasn't that one. So it's much truer to that whole section of the Beatles material. They didn't have all the overdubs of choruses and giant strings and everything. Very raw. And it's like them talking in between songs and everything it takes.
How about you, Roger? Any examples that come to mind?
All the ones mentioned, really. I mean, the Beach Boys one being a priority just because, like Andy was saying, they're not really demos. I mean, they're just unreleased songs, a lot of them.
And Eric.
I can't think of anything other than what they've said.
そうってことだから、海賊版っていうものが
Legs are, obviously deprive artists of royalties, but you guys indulge yourself that kind of stuff.
Trying to think if I have one. Just Aerosmith bootleg, the live album.
Tell us about it.
Somebody gave me a Jellyfish bootleg.
Yeah, there's a Jellyfish one.
Really? Is that right? Where was it made?
New Orleans.
Really?
But it was like a German pressing or a Japanese?
Oh, no, it was just a recording. You're talking about a record. No, it wasn't pressed.
Oh, it wasn't pressed.
But it was done very professionally. It had fade outs and everything. It's really.
Oh, there's a bootleg that I got. I was looking for. Well, my girlfriend works for Trevor Horn, and I was looking for this Yes album that Trevor was on called Drama, and the guy says, "Well, we don't have that, but I've got this thing I can't tell you, but I'll give it to you." And it was Yes at Madison Square Garden with Trevor Horn singing. It was called Yes Meets the Buggles, and it was on some Italian record label, and it was like called Waistcoat Records or something, because the guy had the tape recorder in his coat, and you can just hear the crackling of people in front of him. If somebody walks in front of him, the whole right side disappears. It's like the most disgusting thing I've ever heard, and you can kind of hear it a little bit, but it was like this would have been much more advanced. It was terrible, but I do own that. I didn't pay for it though.
逆に自分の持ったレベルが出てたりするってい
It's
う
about the potential of this New Orleans pressing hitting the shops illicitly. And when the shoes
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's that big of a deal in America. I know when we were in England, you'd walk down the street and see recordings of every band in the world being sold in shops everywhere you'd go.
Yeah.
You mean like legitimate albums
Yeah.
or bootlegs?
Yeah, like live. Okay, this is the tape when Mission UK played here 3 weeks ago.
Oh, I see.
They'll just. I mean, it's just an entire section, that kind of stuff.
So you don't think it's unavoidable in many cases?
Yeah, I mean.
There's definitely two philosophies. I mean, there's like bands like Metallica, and even if they just section off a group, an area where people can set up their little tape recorders, or Grateful Dead or somebody like that. There's a part of me that says that makes a lot of sense, but we don't do a lot of jamming and stuff, so like somebody like the Grateful Dead or even the Black Crowes to a certain degree, where it would warrant somebody. Oh, there's
Special
50
spontaneous moment that
Yeah,
changes from
I mean, so for us it would be kind of boring.
Don't you change your versions or something, or maybe
Well, I
do
mean,
medleys or
we do. I mean, we change it to it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the songs change a little bit, but it's not like we do Jazz Odyssey #3, where we just like when I look at you, go to A. When I look, when I wink, go to G. It's not like some big jam session. So I just, I guess it'd be nice just to at least they'd be better recordings, But if you sectioned off an area, but I think you'd probably see a lot more bootlegs. But I don't know. As long as people have the original, if they have the album, I don't really care that much.
I mean, let's face it, anybody who's going to buy a bootleg has already purchased the album.
Exactly.
From legitimate
Yeah.
channels. So.
That's all I care about, I just want them to know how the songs actually were meant to sound, originally.
あとは日本という国は
You may not realize this, but Japan's sort of a treasure trove for 60s and 70s bootlegs and collectibles. And, there are a lot of people who are just into that stuff and have never really gotten past it. There must be. Is there a feeling of vindication in knowing that you've been received so well in this kind of a country, where you do, where the average fan does sort of show a higher degree of appreciation for it?
It seems like the interviews that I've done in this country, they have definitely been much more knowledgeable, which is always great. I mean, no matter where you are, if somebody's done their homework and they have an appreciation for the music. I mean, I think, and a lot of times they even have a better appreciation than I do. Even I mean, their knowledge of the music is deeper. I mean, I have things that I really like, but if I get, it's like if they find a group that they like, they know the artist's mother's maiden name. You know, it's like the depth of knowledge about any given group, and so that's great. I mean, that's exciting. I think in America there's just too many cable channels. You know, there's so many things you can think about. You know, it's like, oh, maybe I'll go over here. Maybe I'll, you know, and I don't know. I think it's cool that you can really concentrate on music.
I think it also has to do a lot with the inherent value of the music itself. I mean, the Japanese have access to just as many choices as the average American.
Yeah.
They've got not only their 57 channels to choose from, but also Japanese stuff, local stuff. And, you know, obviously they're seeing something in your music that sort of cuts through the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very flattered, definitely.
No.
No, Tom, he asked a question that is probably going to elicit the same sort of answer. In other words, you're going to sort of laugh embarrassingly and say, I'm very flattered, but here goes anyway. Among Japanese musicians, it seems like Jellyfish has earned the highest degree of appreciation. I see your music as a crystallization of real pop, and you're the most enjoyable of the recent bands. How do you feel about this? Like I said, you're going to start in an embarrassing way.
Boy, does that
I'm offended.
suck. Yeah.
So
That's not what we wanted to do at all.
They're missing the point.
there you go.
Frankly, we're not that deep. So, no.
Okay, well, we can leave it at that, and we'll work on this a little bit more.
逆にその
He would, at the same time, he wonders if you don't feel a sort of backlash. I mean, there wouldn't be a backlash on your part. People sort of saying that you're pop music and you're in the 70s or whatever. You don't sure kind of want to run up to the top of the mountain and say, no, you know, we're 1993, we're the latest thing in pop music. We just stop making comparisons with the past.
That definitely gets annoying after a while. I mean, to just have everything be referenced to some source. Because, I mean, really, you could break anything down and into its basic element, you know, its basic elements, and there's so many, you know, it's just, it gets crazy after a while where you just want to go, wait a second, just listen to the songs and appreciate them for what they are. I mean, I certainly don't think that anything we do is so derivative of any one style or something. It's not like we're Led Zeppelin or we're whatever, you know, it's not like we're doing just one thing, you know, like we're a Beatle cover band or anything like that. So it gets kind of to be a drag after a while, but I mean, you know, we do appreciate that all kinds of different kinds of music, and so it's natural for all those kinds of music to pop up in what we do.
まあそういうことを聞いといて
In advance, we had you guys select your 5 favorite albums. He was wondering, what are the criteria for selecting these here?
Well, for me, it was like there's this thing in America called the Desert Island Discs.
The IDs?
Yeah.
Pulse magazine.
Yeah, and that's what I looked at when I chose mine. I tried to get as diverse a collection as I can. I probably could have gotten even more diverse than this.
So that, I just do it for the benefit of the person taking this down. Those are the discs you would take to a desert island if you had access to no other music.
Yeah, I mean, this was written really quickly. It was like, we need him right now, and I went, don't hang up without giving me the, you know. So I was like, off the top of my head. I mean, I would probably change some of these, but these were, you know, I had like Led Zeppelin because I think the Physical Graffiti album, I like a lot of the songs, and the sound of the album itself is just very raw. It's musically really interesting and sonically really interesting. Beach Boys' Pet Sounds for both the same reason. That melodically, it's amazing, and plus it's just emotionally such a raw album for Brian. It was kind of a window to his soul. It's one of the best. I've never heard something that was such a direct line with someone's real soul or persona or whatever. I don't know, person.
His muse.
Yeah, and Miles Davis' Kind of Blue album, that record personifies jazz for me. I mean, that's like the coolest thing I've ever heard. I mean, just it's so cool, and the musicianship on it is amazing. It's wonderfully recorded as well. Nilsson Schmilson, he's great. He's got a great voice. He writes amazing songs, and there's not a song on that album that I don't love. I mean, I love every song on that record. There's not a filler on that record, and so that one came immediately to mind. Also because we had just, when we were in Los Angeles, we met him, and he came to the show, and he was definitely fresh in my mind when I wrote this. The Beatles White Album, because it has 2 albums in it, and you get twice as much Beatles. So, and it also represents the most diverse. It was the most diverse period. You know, like so many different styles of music on that. But I mean, I could add 5 more. I mean, it's like there's so many different things. This is just a smidgen. I don't know if there's a Japanese equivalent word. A smidgen.
Okay, Roger, you're up.
I tried to pick 5 off the top of my head that represented a bunch of different time periods and diverse styles in pop, and have the Carpenters singles, that's like their greatest hits album, which to me is like the ultimate sugary, syrupy, schlocky 70s pop album. The Music Machine Talk Talk record is like definitive Los Angeles garage, bad boy psychedelia.
What is that from? I've never heard of it.
They were just a Los Angeles psychedelic band.
About what band?
67. Like part of they were meaner than the Doors, but they were definitely trying to go for a Doors type of sound.
Mm-hmm.
The Doors kind of had the success, they didn't. And I put Elton John, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, because although he went through a whole lot of different styles in his songwriting, I like that album especially because it's in a lot of ways it captures that time period in rock. It's got a little glam in it. It's got a little R&B. He kind of did it all on that record. And then Thomas Dolby, Golden Age of Wireless is yet another straightforward pop record, but it's like into the 80s. I mean, it's all synthesizers, and it shows how you can take a great writer with great simple songs, but you can arrange them a lot differently. And then same with Prefab Sprout, Steve McQueen. That's like a mid 80s record with what I would consider very contemporary style pop writing, because Paddy McAloon, the composer, he just employs so many different harmonies that hadn't been used before in pop writing, as well as a lot of experimental lyric stuff.
見ててあれ入れるのは遅かったなと思ったんですか？
Did either of you guys, like, right after you gave the list, think, dang, I left out this one? Or went on, I can't believe I left this out.
Oh, like Andy said, there's a bunch.
Yeah, was there any one like that?
There's a Nick Drake album called Heaven and a Wildflower that I love. But that's just a real moody record that I have to be very depressed. So if I'm on my deserted island and I was ready to hang myself, I'd listen to that one before I did it. So.
What about you, Roger? Any regrets or last minute auditions?
You haven't prepared anything. Have you?
And I want to thank my manager.
Right.
Let's see.
He keeps that with him at all times. Just remember who he is.
Oh yeah, Sparks, Kimono My House.
Oh yeah.
What exactly is this list you're trying to do?
Oh well, because I have interviews all week, and because whenever I'm asked this very question, I always forget and embarrass myself in the band. I made notes to myself so I wouldn't forget. Exactly.
That's how he faced the jet lag last night.
よく見るとこれスピリットミルクが入ってないですけど。
Your own album is on there. No crime, no spilt milk.
Yeah.
You ever listen to stuff? I guess you wanted the question is, do you ever listen to your own stuff?
Sure, but I mean, I can appreciate it. I mean, I definitely can. But see, one of the reasons that what draws me to listen to records time and time again is it's like I want to get some new insight to this artist or this band or this song, and I know this band inside and out. I know what the songs mean. I know on every different level. So for me, because we made the record, it's not quite as inviting as something that I didn't have everything to do with.
There's no mystique to be captured.
Yeah. You get one album each.
Exactly.
You and a bar
You haven't been in the band long enough to know 5, so we'll give you one.
I don't like music.
And if I
All
was
comedy
on it,
albums.
Yeah.
Let's get small. Steve on.
Probably for me, the first Blue Nile record.
Okay.
Blue Nile.
Yeah. Just because I just thought I'd never heard anything like that before. It's always refreshing.
Was that a turning point in your musical development? Would you say?
It definitely kind of took me out of listening to Journey, you know.
Whoa.
I've turned that big turn.
That'll do it.
That was a monumental leap. That was like Evel Knievel, Snake River Canyon there.
I made it.
Sort of like deprogramming a Mooney or something.
Yeah, it was. I had to go through a heavy deprogramming of Journey stuff.
Wow.
The
But the
Steve
same-
Perry posters came down just like
Yeah.
that.
His parents called people and they grabbed him from school and they like put him into a van and they.
So Blue Nile, that sounds rather unusual. Circa 84?
I think it was 83.
Yeah.
That was a great record. It was a beautiful record.
好きなやつでしょう
Well,
か。どうしてこれいいんでしょうか。
Do you want to go on record as not liking music, or always to take that as a facetious comment?
No, let me think of a record. Actually, I like Aladdin Sane, David
Aladdin
Bowie.
Sane,
Yeah. Because it rocks.
Did you listen to it at the time, or was it a later discovery?
It was a later discovery, but I'm like very endeared to it now, just because there's a lot of really interesting piano playing. I mean, just in a rock context, it's very interesting. It's very theatrical, needless to say.
今まで聞いてなんか一番最悪なバンドの音
The worst music, the worst band you ever heard.
Wow.
The band that goes on record as really turning stomachs and
This is a
Don't do
fun
it.
question.
Don't.
souring milk and stopping clocks, making small children.
They're not the worst I've ever heard.
Who's it?
All right, well, don't use them as things.
No, I wouldn't.
Who's it?
No. It's personal.
In personal thing.
He likes a band that I don't like, so he was afraid that
See,
I
I
was going
think
to
he
say
doesn't
that
like them
band.
because I like them. I think it has something.
No,
to
I
do
never
with-
liked
personal, no personal vendettas.
I never liked them. But okay, I'm trying to think of a.
See, the problem with that question is people that you really don't like, you just don't care about. You don't think about them. They're just so
Bad.
non-moving that you dismiss them immediately. The only way you
Doesn't certain things.
well, the only reason why you would hate someone that much is because they get so successful and you can't understand why. That's my criteria.
That is
for
infuriating.
But you know, you run across mediocrity all the time. You just
Yeah.
kind of go, nah.
But see, yeah, but the thing is, I mean, like when you were talking about Journey, as much as you could say about Journey or any of those kind of very corporate bands, there was a certain amount of decency to. I mean, the production was good. You can get into something. But I remember when REO Speedwagon was in all that, I was going, I'm sorry. The guy can't sing. They can't write songs. The records sound bad.
Riding Storm Out.
I don't
Good
get
song
it.
to me.
No. So they would definitely be on my list, but they'd be a very long list.
Right.
And so in no particular order they would be on there.
Huh.
But
REO Speedway.
I don't get it. But see, we could look at the top 10 in America right now, and
Yeah,
and I'd
pretty-
put 7 acts into that category, like off the top. I mean, speaking for myself, I just feel so displaced in America with what's going on.
Really?
I mean, we are so not a part of that whole scene. There's, I mean, there's a lot of rap music. There's a lot of rap music I like, but there's some that I just don't get. But it's just like you guys speaking Japanese. I don't understand.
Right.
I don't understand. I'm not a black urban teen, so I'm not supposed to get it. You know. So.
The thing is, a lot of the rap music at the top of the charts is being purchased by white teens in the
Right.
suburbs,
Mm.
not unlike yourself.
I
10
was,
years ago.
yeah.
So I guess it's just a different generation.
I want to hear your guys' choices for terrible band.
Terrible bands. Wow, I like all music.
Wait, wasn't you the guy that didn't like music? Like
Sterling
Letterman?
integrity. Sterling integrity.
You know, Loverboy's kind of right up there with.
Loverboy, I don't know.
Yeah, they're pretty fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my
Their
personal.
Everybody working for the weekend. Then.
Well, that's
They
spoke
you
to
know,
the people.
Glenn Fry, that Glenn Fry tune. And
Ooh, there you go.
Glenn Fry.
Yeah, I think you're starting to hit a nerve here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good. That's good.
You know, he's on a new cop show in America.
Is that right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's the end of the world, basically. I mean, that's the. I think it's been a biblical thing. I think Nostradamus said, when Glenn Fry's on a cop
And
show,
the world ends.
it's over.
Written in the quatrain.
The weird
So-
thing about Glenn Fry is like every Eagles hit that he's written, I've loved.
Really?
And then as soon as the band broke up and he did his Miami Vice thing,
Smuggler's Blues was.
it just went so out of control, bad.
So bad.
I love Party Town.
The heat is on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
They speak to me. Those songs, they speak to me.
Unbelievable.
But there's a lot that we could mention that we would never mention because we might want to tour with him sometime.
So, I mean, yeah, on the telephone interview that you did mention Lenny House. But yeah,
Uh-oh.
that's,
We won't mention that.
We won't mention that. That's been bleeped.
That's right. I probably said that on the phone.
No, actually, you were extremely diplomatic, and
Yeah.
you covered your tracks.
Thank
I
you
think,
very much.
Very nicely. In fact, if the manager of the read that, he would
You
not
go-
be offended at all.
Did I say he doesn't suck? Is that what I said?
Yeah, you said- yeah, you
no.
said- in no uncertain terms, you said he did not suck.
He did not suck.
さすがですね。そのマイク
Have you guys added any extra cover tunes to your live repertoire?
The heat is on.
It's a reggae version.
Reggae. Pretty cool.
Why did we know that was coming?
We have to do that now. It's just not good enough.
We're trying to learn SOS by Pink Lady. We're supposed to do it on a show, TV show, in a few days, and we have no idea how to sing it, so we're going to need some phonetic lessons.
Well, it'll probably go over about as well as your Move track did in Birmingham. I think most of them, they've probably been forgotten about.
Well,
Well, we want
it's
to
your
carry the
fault.
torch.
It doesn't go over. No. Boy, what?
Probably not since you've seen this.
But when we do mix it up, I'm sure there's things that you didn't hear. We've played Have You Never Been Mellow? We've played, I don't know. Was Olivia Newton-John big here?
Yeah, I mean during her heyday.
So maybe we should kick that in the set when we're here. I don't know. We do like to mix it up a little bit. Throw some new songs in.
Oh, the Sukiyaki song.
The Sukiyaki song.
Yeah, I mean it was like a 1962 hit. Maybe your parents would know
I
that.
don't know that
They
song.
know that one.
What's this, the Sukiyaki song?
Yeah, it was like a really big.
Suki. That one?
No, that's a different one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like a
Suki Sue. That was Suki Sue, wasn't it?
Or yeah.
Can't believe the conversation turned to this.
It's deteriorated rapidly, hasn't it? Has anybody covered your stuff? Your songs?
What was that band that they gave us?
Mud
their
Pie.
tape? Yeah, Mud Pie.
It's like the most popular band in America. No, I'm just kidding. There is a band, Mud Pie, that covered Calling Sarah.
Really?
But, but I mean, Ringo Starr recorded a song that we wrote, but it wasn't really a Jellyfish song. And Brian Wilson's supposed to record a couple songs, but I mean, no.
About the old
Very-
RS
What?
story.
We were this close. Rod Stewart. I mean, I might have told you this story, but I'm still in therapy about it. He was going to record I Want to Stay Home and had a bad day at the studio or something and decided that even though they spent $100,000 on the track that he couldn't get the words right or something.
Well, I hear he goes through a lot of that kind of stuff. Goes through a lot of material, records it,
Yeah.
throws it out.
If he doesn't get it like on the first or second try,
So,
it's out. So, but the guy Trevor Horn was the guy who produced that stuff, and then he told me that he was going to try to get Wendy and Lisa to do that song because he loves the song.
is that right?
So I guess they would do a particularly funky version.
There'd be some innuendo in there.
Yeah. I want to stay
What,
near
home?
Sugar
Yeah.
Walls or something.
What does home really mean?
Yeah, I don't.
With an extra O.
That's for your next work in the studio for your own stuff.
Don't have any at the moment.
Really?
We're waiting until Glenn Fry's schedule opens up.
He's going to produce it.
Yes, producer. Executive producer.
It's executive.
Really, there's nothing on top of it. How about the material? Is the material building up?
No, it's building up in here.
It's welling up.
It's welling up. We like to keep it pretty close to the time we record when we write songs, because we write a lot, but I mean, you don't want to go on the road and play a bunch of songs for 6 months and then be completely sick of them by the time you go into the studio and are trying to make it exciting. So so we only play the really bad songs live. So that would never make it onto an album. So just keep that open. So
How long is your live set, by the way?
anywhere from an hour and a half to 5 hours.
With the rock and roll medley.
Yeah.
Well, that's
With the
usually
Detroit.
that's
Maybe
usually
some
because of a
jamming.
rain delay.
You know, remember, we don't jam. So it's a pretty
All
painful
songs.
set.
Every song's 2 minutes long. Just keep going. Have you ever heard this one? 500 bottles of beer. 500 bottles of beer.
No, but I mean, you've got to. You must play, if it's 90 minutes long, you must do virtually every song you've ever recorded.
And well,
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. Plus the.
There's only a few we don't do.
well, I do a drum solo, and that
It's a little
takes.
longer when you tap dances.
Everybody has a little spotlight segment of the show. And we go out have a few
I get
beers.
into some macrame work.
Roger's a fantastic juggler.
So my brother was.
Okay, I guess that'll do it then.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Te acuerdo, amor.